Today we're talking about how to resolve long-standing conflicts in your organization. Hello, I'm Shawn Kent Hayashi, an executive coach with the Professional Development Group. We help organizations build high-performing teams and inspiring leaders. People are sometimes surprised to hear me say conflict is a good thing. Why? Because innovation and future wealth often come from solving issues or problems that emerge as a result of conflict. Think about it this way. A customer has a problem with a product or a service, and there's some conflict around that. And what do? You solve it, you make it better, and as a result, good things happen. Internal conflict about how a process is being done. When you solve that conflict and you make it even better, you improve the process. High-performing teams have an ongoing list of the opportunities for improvement. Now, we can call it the opportunities for improvement list. We can also call it the issues list, the challenges list. Come up with a way to describe it that works for you. But any high-performing team needs a forum, a venue to talk about what the conflicts and challenges are. What happens when we're in that conversation with each other? Well, first, we recognize that each of the people on the team perhaps will have a different perspective about what the issues, what the challenges are. And so we begin by giving people the time to think about what's their perspective. I hand out Post-it notes and a marker to each person, and I ask them to literally, on separate Post-it notes, write down the different puzzle pieces that relate to the conflict, the issue that's in front of us to solve. Then I have people speak to a point of view. So I might say, what's one item on a Post-it note? And I'll take that from somebody. I'll say, does anybody else have that item? And now I might get 3 or 4 of those Post-it notes. I hang them on the wall. And as a result of doing this, we can see the places where we've got 7 or 8 people had the same perspective. Only one person thought this was. And now we can see it hanging on the wall. And then we ask, given people's accountabilities, given people's roles, who owns the authority to make this decision? And that person gets all of the Post-it notes handed to them with a question. How long will it take you to make this decision? If it's not a crisis, I recommend that you give people at least 3 days. Sleep on it at least 3 nights and then make your decision and inform the group how this is going to move forward. In some instances, people may realize they don't have enough information, and so they may need to go do some more research. And so they may find themselves saying, I need a week or 3 weeks to get the right data to be able to move this forward. And moving something forward might be making a recommendation, providing a proposal, making the final decision. Or what we do in my organization is we say, let's experiment with this. Here's what we think the right answer is, but let's experiment with it for 30 days or 90 days and see if this in fact has the outcome that we desired. So if we're trying to solve an issue, let's say with production on a manufacturing line, and we've got the head of sales, the head of quality, the head of production, the head of sourcing sitting at the table together. We may realize as a result of people putting their individual Post-it note information that there's a backup in shipping. And items are arriving, but they're not being processed as quickly as they're arriving. It may be taking 2 or 3 days for the boxes to be opened. We might not have known that, but it shows up on an individual Post-it note, and now it informs part of what's happening in the process. And we have the eureka moment in the team. I see this happen all the time, particularly in organizations where in the past people have been running things as individual silos rather than working together as a leadership team. So understanding each person's accountabilities, understanding the flow and where the baton handoffs are within accountabilities is so important. I've seen long-standing organizational conflicts be resolved as a result of using this process. It often helps to have an outside facilitator helping the group to move through this, because each person needs to have their own voice and point of view, and the facilitator can help to make sure that people are being heard and getting their point out on the table. And by having a facilitator, it enables each person in the room to have their own ability to contribute without having to wear the dual hat of being the facilitator who's unbiased and giving people time versus having a stake in the ground about something. For about 6 months, I led the leadership team meetings for a group, had no vested interest in the decisions that they made sure that each person got the opportunity to hear. After I left, they turned it over to a person to lead, and that person began to take over too much of the time and interrupt people, not allowing them to share. And within a few weeks, they were saying, Sean, we need you back to facilitate some of these meetings for us. So again, when there's intense conflict, you may want to bring in a facilitator to make sure that everybody's input is heard before the decision is made. It's very important that we realize who owns the authority to make the decision. And then after we've spoken our piece, we've said what we needed to say, then we have to make peace with their decision. So what do you do when one of your colleagues doesn't like a decision that was made and now starts complaining about it? That's a performance management issue. So once we've gone through the process of making the decision as a team, and we've given the right to make that decision to the person who owns the authority to do so. If people leave the meeting and are being sarcastic, snide, resentful, that's a performance management issue. And in essence, we need to hold the mirror up in front of that person to help them see that that behavior is not here behavior. When we create high-performing teams, when we do the high-performing team retreats, we help the group to identify, what does a great team look like? We call that here behavior. These are the things we're going to do to create that spirit and that culture of high performance. And we also identify what are some of the not here behaviors, such as complaining, whining, talking to people about something that they don't have the authority or ability to influence or control. That's not here behavior. So when we see someone doing that after a decision has been made, we need to have the cultural norm in place to address it directly. Either a peer needs to address it or a manager needs to address it with the person who's doing that. So let me tie this up. What does it look like in an organization that has really great conflict resolution norms? Is it that conflict doesn't exist? No, it's that we are clear on what our conflicts and issues really are. We have an ongoing list, and we have a process with each other to talk through and solve those issues. We begin to see momentum. We begin to trust in our ability to resolve conflicts. We're less afraid with each other as a result. People don't hesitate to put the issues on the list because they know we've got the skill, ability, and talent on our team to solve these. That creates high-performance cultures, and it's wonderful to work in teams where we have that kind of momentum. If you're looking for a facilitator to help you run highly effective teams, the Professional Development Group has wonderful facilitators who would be happy to talk to you about your upcoming meeting or project. See the link below for more details. If you liked this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.